Thomas had been at the works for a very long time. His accident with Diane the Troublesome Truck had taken a toll on him. So much of him had to be repaired and replaced. Thomas hated Diane. She was his enemy. But while Thomas was being repaired, Diane was going through some changes. By the time Thomas was finished being fixed, Diane was no longer the same truck she once was. She wasn't even a truck anymore. She was a roofless passenger car, and she no longer hated Thomas. But Thomas didn't know this, so when he finally returned home, he was very shocked to see Diane at the back of Percy's passenger train. "You!" growled Thomas. "Hello, Thomas," said Diane. "Welcome back. I see you're no longer a truck anymore. Definitely for the best." "You'd be surprised," said Percy. "She makes a great carriage. Diane mainly goes on Toby's trains, but—" "Good," interrupted Thomas. "I don't want her on my train. I'll never pull her. Mark my words." And Thomas stormed away. "He doesn't seem to be doing any better," said Diane. "He'll calm down eventually," said Percy. "But of course, sometimes eventually can be very, very long." Unfortunately, Percy was right. Thomas was still very cross with Diane, even after a couple weeks. It was starting to become a problem for the other engines. "How do we stop him from being so bitter?" Diane asked Toby. "Well," said Toby, "the only way to make up a quarrel is to have the two people talk honestly with each other and show that you both have changed for the better." "How do I do that?" asked Diane. "We'll find a way," said Toby. "We always do." Diane was fitted with new brakes when she was rebuilt. They've proven to be very useful when stopping trains at the station and when other coaches' brakes fail. One day, Thomas was stopping at Elsbridge, but he overshot the platform. Once he backed up, an inspector came and examined Plarail. "The brakes were hard on," said the inspector, "but the train didn't stop. The pipe must be broken. We'll have to get another brake coach." "But the only coach with brakes in the yard is Diane," said the station master. "Absolutely not," snapped Thomas. "I will not have Diane on my train." "We don't have a choice," said the station master. So Diane was coupled up behind Annie and the passengers climbed aboard. Then, with the blow of a conductor's whistle, Thomas crossly set off down the line. "Don't think about letting your brakes slip on," said Thomas after a while. "I wasn't planning on it," said Diane, "but I might if you keep yelling at me." "Why shouldn't I yell at you? You were the one who caused my most serious accident today and the Farquhar Quarry disaster. Why are you even still on this railway? You're nothing but trouble." I'm still on this railway because Sir Topham Hatt gave me a second chance. You might not know this, but when the mines were collapsing and the workmen were trapped, I told the workmen to hide under me and my siblings. We ended up saving them. So, in return, Sir Topham Hatt saved us. He rebuilt me and my friends, but he rebuilt me into a passenger car for a new start, and probably to separate me from the other trucks. I then joined Toby's train. Him and I had discussions over the past week. He's very wise and cares a lot more about the trucks than many other engines do. He helped voice my concerns, and now life on the railway for the trucks and engines has been better. I mean, when was the last time you heard about an accident with the trucks? Thomas and Annie realized they haven't heard of any new crashes. "Thomas, I'm not the same truck I once was, literally and figuratively. I messed up many times in my life, and I've become an enemy to you. So, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I was rude to you. I'm sorry that I played tricks on you. And I'm sorry I caused the crash that sent you away for a long time. I hope you can forgive me." Annie noticed that Diane was starting to cry. There, it's okay," she said. Thomas thought about what Diane had said. "I want to believe you," he said. "But you can't just tell me you're better now. You have to show me." "Yeah, I know. Actions speak louder than words, after all," said Diane. Daisy told me that one. Well, that explains a lot. Diane and Annie laughed, and with that, the three of them continued steadily down the line. When they had continued through the Hattenbeck Tunnel, Diane noticed a few stones fell. Could that be the start of a landslide, she asked herself. When it was time to go back up the valley that afternoon, Diane was now very worried. Things were going well, and Thomas was heading for the seemingly normal tunnel, but Diane couldn't help herself. "We have to stop!" She applied her brakes, and the train stopped just before the tunnel. "Why did you stop?" asked Thomas. "There might be a landslide," she said. "I saw some rocks falling when we left the tunnel, and—" A big rock fell to the ground. "Cinders and ashes," said Thomas. "A landslide's starting." Thomas puffed his pistons, and they raced into the tunnel. The landslide had blocked the end of the tunnel, but Thomas, Annie, and Diane were safe. "That was close," said Thomas. "Thank you, Diane. You were a hero." "Oh, please," said Diane modestly. "You were the one who got us out of the landslide." "You're both heroes," laughed Annie. "3 cheers for Thomas and Diane." "Hip, hip, hooray!" went the passengers. Thomas and Diane beamed with pride. It had now been a couple days since the landslide. Thomas and Diane have made up their feud and are now very close friends. The other engines were very happy about this, until Thomas and Diane started complaining together. Diane still works with Toby, but sometimes you'll see Diane on Thomas's train as a special coach. Everything seems great for the branch line engines now, and I'm just happy that I don't have to say that's a story for another day for the 4th time. Aren't you?